right, welcome back to Doodling with Purpose, our ongoing weekly guide to learning ancient Egyptian hieroglyphs. And why am I starting this week with a shot of some rubber bands and the word elastic? Well, because we're going to do a little bit of a deep dive into the elastic nature of hieroglyphs and why they are elastic. Essentially, and to quickly define elastic, it means the ability to stretch or shrink an object, meaning you can pull it really long or you could shrink it really small. And this applies to hieroglyphics for two reasons. The first is the surface they were written on, which, aside from papyrus, is walls. And walls, you can't always control how long they are. They could be short, they could be long, you might have to go around a corner. And the other reason is because Egyptians like their hieroglyphs to look pretty. Honestly, it's an aesthetic thing. They wanted their hieroglyphs, all the work they were putting into this, to look attractive. So for this reason, the language, hieroglyphs, are very elastic. So a way we looked at this earlier was we looked at the way words can be spelled differently. So this is nefer. It is a single three-consonant glyph that has, so three sounds, N-T-R, N-F-R. So we could stretch that out and now write it with more glyphs. So this says nefer, so the first glyph says nefer, and then you've got an F and an R. So it's really, you're looking at, if you were going to pronounce all of the letters in it, nefer, F-R, nefer, I suppose. So this is what's about the elastic nature of the Egyptian hieroglyph language. So you're going to read these in the order we talked about earlier, how you read into faces, so that you have the face of the snake. So netter first, then the F, the snake, the horned viper, then the R, the mouth. Now the word nefer means good. You're going to see this word quite a lot. And if you were going to read this literally, again, it would look like nefer fur with an extra F and an extra R. These are sound complements, and because they reflect, they mirror the previous two consonant sounds, you cancel them out. They're just there to jog the memory, essentially. And it's really there so that if you need a longer version of the word good, you can write it out with extra letters. Or if you have less space, let's say you hit an end of a wall, you could just write that first glyph, and it still means good. So these are, as I said, they're complement sounds. They're not meant to be read. They're meant to just jog the memory and provide the ability to lengthen the word, if necessary. Or shrink a word depending on how much space you have. And another reason you may want to do this is for beauty. And there's another term in hieroglyphics called graphical transposition, or swapping, if you will, which means you're going to swap or transport two glyphs, graphical transposition. So let's look at this word. This is the word for lector priest, meaning a priest who carries the book. And if you looked at this and read it literally, and read it in the order we've been taught, reading into the face, or in this case, into the foot, it's going to read herb. And you might think that the first H is, maybe a complement sound, and you want to cross that off. But in this case, what we're looking at is graphical transposition, where the two tall sounds are placed at the end of the word. So you're not going to read this 1, 2, 3, H, HR, and B. In this case, because there's two tall signs, these are placed simply to make the word look prettier when written. I know, hey, that's how it works. So the correct order to read this is actually 1, the HR, the block, 2, the flocks, and then 3, the foot. The signs are moved around simply, or the glyphs are moved simply to make it look prettier. So let's look at another example of this. So this is the word ma'ah, which means to see. It's the verb. It's your first verb, and that's actually important. So you should remember this one, ma'ah, to see. And again, if you're going to follow the standard rules, you're going to read this 1, the hoe, 2 the eye, 3 the vulture, 4 the vulture again, if you were going to read in traditional order. But the actual order to read this one is 1 the hoe, 2 the first bird, then the second bird, and then the eye at the end. And you might say, well, why are you putting the eye under the first glyph like that? If you were going to read this in that order, it would look like ma-a-a-a, ear. The IR for the I glyph, that's at the bottom. But the IR is actually not read, and the double A's are your sound complements, so you don't need to pronounce both of them. So it could just be ma-a, not ma-a-a-a. The IR, in this case, is your determinative, and it's been moved to the beginning of the word, actually the second glyph, for aesthetic reasons, because it looks prettier that way. It fits nicely, and when you're writing on a wall and you run out of space, this is a nice way of writing it. So the IR is not read, it's your determinative, and instead of being at the end of the word, it's now in the middle of the word, simply for beauty reasons, and this is called graphical transposition. I know, it's crazy. The journey to learning hieroglyphics has a lot of rules, but you'll start to really appreciate the beauty of the language as you embrace these things, and you start seeing it. You don't have to think about, you'll realize, oh, there's 2 long glyphs on either side, so I'm going to read those at the end. All right, I know, we're getting into deep stuff now, but if you continue to subscribe and like this video, it tells YouTube to share it with more people. And we'll be back next week as we continue to build each block of our hieroglyphic journey and pyramid, doodling with purpose, learning hieroglyphics week by week, slowly but surely, which is the way to do it. Thanks for watching.